The art of dying. What if dying, instead of being feared or denied, could be understood as a natural, meaningful transition? In The Art of Dying, neuropsychiatrist Peter Fenwick and his wife Elizabeth explored dozens of end-of-life phenomena, such as deathbed visions, near-death experiences, coincidences, and vivid moments of clarity that challenge our assumptions about death and consciousness. Today, we invite you to journey with us through what dying might really be and how we can embrace death as part of life. 1. Why the Art of Dying? The book is described as a modern-day guide to dying well, a contemporary echo of the medieval Ars Moriendi, a manual on how to die with dignity. Peter Fenwick, a respected neuropsychiatrist, spent decades talking to dying patients, their families, and hospice workers, collecting stories about what really happens in the final hours. What emerged from that work was a striking pattern. Many dying people don't simply fade away. They often pass through a transition filled with symbolic images, spiritual experiences, and profound clarity. This book tries to bring those experiences into the open, not to sensationalize them, but to help us face death with honesty, compassion, and hope. 2. What are end-of-life phenomena? Throughout The Art of Dying, the Fenwicks document a variety of phenomena, events, and experiences reported by the dying and those around them. Here are some of the common ones. Deathbed visions. The dying person sees loved ones, guides, or radiant figures, sometimes describes visitors coming for them. Deathbed coincidences. People far away suddenly sense or see signs at the moment a loved one dies, or dream of them. Or strange synchronicities involving clock stopping or uncanny timing. Visions of light, mist, or otherworldly ambiance, a luminous presence, mist, or soft radiance described by those present at death. Near-death experiences, NDEs, in cases where people are resuscitated. Experiences like out-of-body sensations, life review, encounters with light or beings. The sense of crossing a threshold. Sudden clarity or terminal lucidity. People with serious brain illness or dementia, regaining awareness, memory, or coherence shortly before death. The authors do not treat these as rare curiosities. Over hundreds of submitted accounts from hospices, hospitals, families, they argue these phenomena are more common than we assume. 3. What might they mean? Why do these experiences happen? What do they tell us about death and about consciousness? According to Fenwick, perhaps consciousness is not just a product of the brain. Maybe under certain conditions, such as at the end of life. When the brain-body connection loosens, consciousness unhooks and reveals realities invisible to normal waking life. If our minds are more than neurons, these reported experiences point to a deeper, non-local dimension of awareness, one that may survive bodily death. The book also considers cultural, historical, and spiritual traditions, such as Tibetan death systems or religious teachings, which long accepted death as a passage, not an end. This helps frame these phenomena not just as anomalies, but as part of a broader human understanding. 4. What happens when we deny death? Fenwick argues that in modern Western culture, we often treat death as a medical failure, something to hide, fight, or deny. That attitude, rooted in fear, disconnects us from the possibility of a peaceful, dignified death. It deprives dying people and their loved ones of the chance for closure, acceptance, and perhaps even transcendence. By confronting death honestly, by acknowledging end-of-life phenomena, and by offering compassionate care, we may restore the dignity and sanctity of dying. 5. How to Die Well, a practical guide, not a medical advice. Based on the observations and testimonies collected, The Art of Dying suggests some principles for a good death. Whether you are the dying person, a caregiver, or a loved one, acceptance and calm presence. Allow space for the dying person to express themselves, even if their words seem symbolic or unusual. Listen with compassion, not judgment. Allowing inner transition. Encourage letting go, both emotionally, mentally. Allow forgiving, releasing guilt, reconciling relationships, finding peace. Acknowledging what may be happening rather than dismissing visions or experiences as confusion. Treat them as meaningful, Respect their reality, seeing death as a journey, not just an end. Understand that death may be a passage, a transformation, perhaps a movement into another dimension of consciousness. Creating a supporting environment. Emotional, spiritual, and relational support may help the dying and those around them to navigate the transition with dignity and grace. These are not clinical prescriptions, but guidelines rooted in empathy, reverence, and openness. 6. Why this matters. Whether death feels distant or close, understanding these perspectives can transform how we live. For caregivers, health workers, or loved ones of the dying, this awareness can make the difference between a fearful, harried death and a meaningful, sacred farewell. For anyone interested in consciousness, spirituality, or what lies beyond the stories in the art of dying, challenge the strictly material view. Opening space for hope, wonder, and deeper meaning. And for each of us, knowing that death may not be the end, but a transition can soften fear, bring acceptance, and deepen gratitude for life itself. 7. Some skepticism honoring the mystery. Of course, these accounts are controversial. Critics argue that deathbed visions and NDEs might be hallucinations, brain-based illusions, oxygen deprivation, or the mind's last flickers. The authors don't claim to have all the answers. They acknowledge the mystery. They admit that only a minority of dying people report such phenomena, but the consistency, number, and sincerity of the reports across cultures, medical settings, and personal backgrounds make the question too significant to ignore. Whether we interpret these events as spiritual, psychological, or unknown, they remind us that death remains one of life's greatest mysteries. 8. Invitation to live and die consciously. The art of dying invites us to change our relationship with death, not just by erasing fear, but also by embracing mystery, compassion, and love. Death may be inevitable, but how we approach it and how we accompany others can transform it into a sacred passage. If you're open to it, listen with your heart. Honor the stories. Allow death to teach, to heal, and maybe to awaken something beyond the boundaries of life.